Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for today's session, which is part of the Tech for Success Essential Guidance for SMEs webinar series. So throughout these sessions in the last few weeks, we focus on some of the key areas where SMEs are having to adapt rapidly to respond to the impact of COVID-19. After today's session, we're going to have a slight pause for a couple of weeks. However, we would like to invite you back for a special session on the 11th of June at 11 AM, which is going to have a slightly different feel to what we've done so far. We're going to bring back experts from the series so far to reflect on the latest developments across all the areas we've covered, and also to discuss how COVID-19 continues to impact SMEs. So please look out for details on how to join that session nearer the time. So back to today. We're shortly going to be looking at key financial considerations for SMEs, particularly when it comes to financial technology tools, resources and strategies. I'm very pleased to be able to welcome Pippa Clarke and Hazel Tucker from Bishop Fleming Chartered Accountants. Pippa is Head of Technology, Innovation and Growth for Bishop Fleming, and Hazel is Corporate Business Services Partner. So before I say hello to Pippa and Hazel, I'd just like to briefly cover a few housekeeping points with you. Those of you who've been with us before will be quite familiar with this. So my name is Siobhan Lavelle. I'm a specialist in reputation management, change and crisis communications, and I will be guiding us through today's session. As usual, everyone is on mute so that we can all hear our speakers clearly, but please don't let that stop you asking questions. We know you're going to be keen to ask Pippa and Hazel for their views on your specific challenges, so please can I ask you to use the Q&A feature to submit your questions as we go through, and I'll share these with our speakers later in the session. And finally, if you're using Twitter today, please use the event hashtag that you can see on your screen now. So I'd now like to welcome Pippa and Hazel from Bishop Fleming. Good morning to you both. I know that they're there, they're quiet, but you'll hear from them in a moment. Good morning, Pippa. Good morning, Hazel.
Good morning, Siobhan. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'd also like to welcome Jordan Westcott, who is Operations Director at Timewade and co-founder of Technology for Success. Good morning, Jordan.
Morning, Siobhan. Good morning, everyone.
So to get us started today, I have a question for you all. We have been through a pretty tumultuous couple of months where businesses have rapidly developed their strategies on all fronts, adapted tools, and responded to huge changes in circumstances. I think there's no doubt there's definitely more change ahead. Jordan, can I please ask you first, why is financial technology more important than ever for SMEs right now?
Sure. Well, there's much more uncertainty around than ever, and that could carry on, and it's likely to carry on for a very, very long time. So it's crucial that businesses make the very best decisions that they can. And in order to make those decisions, it's all about having the right information, the right data, accurate information in front of you in order to do that. So technology is essential for that. It's essential for ensuring that the right people in your business can get to that information securely, and a lot of people, of course, are working at home, so they need to access it in different places.
Yeah, that's a very good point. We've all adapted literally everything about our businesses, including our locations, haven't we? So, Pippa and Hazel, what are your thoughts on that?
So I think it's really critical that businesses are clear on their strategy at the moment. And that means accessing information and using that information to inform your strategy and being able to make quick decisions. You need to access real-time information. We don't know exactly what the future is going to bring, but if you keep coming back to your strategy, checking in that that's okay, and that the information you have helps you make the right decisions to fulfill your business strategy and aims, it can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Any further thoughts, Hazel?
Yeah, just to add that we're finding that businesses are using data analytics and machine learning to help them to facilitate and enhance digital customer experience, including actually predicting and anticipating what the customer interactions are going to be like. So for businesses to continue to grow and be successful in the future and actually remain competitive, it's going to just be vital for them to continue to embrace the digital fintech transformation.
Yeah, I think you've all raised on some quite different but very specific points that we're all on a learning curve here, aren't we? And I think that's essential for businesses to keep up to date with what's going on. And I know, Pippa and Hazel, you're now going to share some of the latest updates and some really important details with us now. So what I'll do is I'll hand over to you, and Pippa, I believe you're speaking first, so I'll hand over to you to talk us through your slides, and we'll come back for more questions in due course. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Siobhan. And yes, I'm delighted to join you this morning just to talk about FinTech and how you can use it to help drive your business forward. So if we start first by looking at, okay, what do we mean by FinTech? I mean, FinTech at its simplest form is the application of technology to helping manage finances. We've seen that financial management has evolved over centuries, not just in recent years. The original innovation perhaps was the introduction of double entry bookkeeping, going back a very long time ago. And we've seen computers and technology being used to manage finances for a long time. It's really about how transactions are dealt with in a digital way. And this has evolved over many years, and we'll be familiar with a lot of the things that are on the screen. But particularly over the last 10 to 15 years, there's been a much more rapid pace of change in this, so that we weren't using ledgers, we were perhaps using spreadsheets to manage business finances. That's now moved into using cloud accounting systems and FinTech platforms that hopefully will communicate with each other and give you the best information so you can make good decisions. Before we look at how you can use it to drive your business forward, let's look a bit at why you need to use FinTech. And I would bring this back to, particularly at the moment, it's really important you have a clear strategy for managing your business. Start with thinking about what your strategy is. And digitalizing your financial resources should be part of helping you to get a better business understanding. Once you really understand how your business can succeed at this time, and that might involve modeling lots of different scenarios, being prepared to make rapid decisions and being prepared to diversify, and having access to the right information at the right time can only lead to better decision making. With FinTech, you can really access real-time data very, very quickly. And don't forget, this can also become part of your customer experience. We know that a key concern of businesses just at the moment is how they can access their customers. Can they get hold of the right decision makers? Will people find them on the internet if they're a consumer business? But FinTech can become part of your customer experience. One of the biggest barriers to a decision by a consumer to make a purchase online might be how cumbersome it is to make the payment. It might also be a lack of trust in what they're seeing. So those sorts of things are really important. And if you tie that into your financial management system so that your customer experience is better, you will help enhance consumer engagement. With the proper use of FinTech, you can streamline your accounting functions and make sure that you get back to the information that you really need. What are the key bits of information you need to make the right decisions for your business? Lots of businesses, most businesses, have some sort of FinTech that they're using, but critically 62% of UK businesses still don't use that to produce timely management information. That can be a real hamper to driving the business forward, and without access to that management information, understanding what it means and which are the bits of it that really help you make the right decisions, you may find it an increasingly challenging time over the coming weeks and months. And finally, this isn't really optional anymore. Any business knows that they have to have some sort of adoption of FinTech in order to be compliant with all their filing requirements. So HMRC, for instance, have recently advertised for a new digital and information officer, and they will be in charge of a £1 billion operational and IT strategic budget. Now that's an indicator of just how seriously the government agencies are investing in this sort of technology. And in order to be compliant and make sure that you're aware what HMRC will see, you need to understand which FinTech systems you should use and how you're going to use them. When you're looking at how you should use FinTech in your business, really you do come back to that first critical bit, which is, what is your business strategy? And this isn't something that you set in stone and leave on the shelf. This is something that you should revisit regularly. And at the moment, revisiting it is probably a more regular thing that you should do than it ever has been. Once you've made your decisions on your business strategy, you should have a good understanding of what information you need to drive the business forward. That will then lead you into a natural review of what options are available for not just FinTech, but other platforms and other business systems that you need, but FinTech will be a key part of that. And again, this isn't something that you leave on the shelf, this is something that you revisit and you look to enhance. And it may be that you find as part of this process that your existing FinTech systems are sufficient for what you need. Whilst you may have them and may be using them to a certain degree, there's often extra functionality that you can use that you haven't been using so far. And this can be illustrated in the circular timeline that I've got on the screen here. You know, that you should consult with the stakeholders in your business. That's you as owners, you as management, key senior employees, about the business strategy, and revisit that and be clear as to what it is. Implement any changes and make sure you've got connected systems. So, for instance, you might have a FinTech platform that would be able to talk to a receipt capture app, but that may not be enabled at the moment. You know, that could really enhance and reduce the time it takes to manage your business. So although on average 88% of cloud accounting systems have a bank feed connected, only about 21% of businesses use the receipt capture process, and only about 11% actually perform the monthly reconciliations that those platforms would make very easy. And don't forget that this should be reviewed regularly, and you should look at how you can enhance your systems and come back again to the revisit of your business strategy.
Thank you. Can I just ask you a question on what you've shared so far? So I think you've described some really important features that we should all be thinking of. And to me, this is a FinTech journey that has been in motion since before COVID-19 started to have its impact. And right now, SMEs are perhaps continuing with what they had already started, but also very concerned about the financial impact and the new financial challenges of COVID-19. So how do they balance these two very different pressures?
I think that's a really interesting question, Siobhan. And you know, we're all human beings, and this has a really human impact on all of us as business owners, as senior management within business. I think being better informed helps you feel confident that you're making the right decisions. And yes, of course, COVID-19 has absolutely thrown up in the air the normal ways of doing business and the normal ways of social interaction. But that doesn't take away the fact that businesses are still needed. Human beings do still want to interact with each other. And actually, the FinTech, as you say, has been around for many years and evolving for many years. And we've seen lots of examples of that. But at the moment, don't be scared of understanding what it is that you're facing. And you use your FinTech to make sure you really understand how your business can weather the next few weeks and months, and how you can use it to make the right decisions going forward.
That's interesting. It's almost about being brave, embracing it, and then doing all that strategic thinking that you're talking about to make sure that you are future-proofing your business as much as any of us can at the moment. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. And I'm going to hand over to Hazel, who's going to talk through in a bit more detail some of what we mean by FinTech and what businesses should really be focusing on. And I think that will help people to understand just how easily this can be used and just how important it is. Hazel.
Thanks, Pippa. Yeah, in order to actually determine how FinTech can benefit your business, it's important to understand and identify what your key sticking points are.
Hazel, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you right there because we're having some sound issues. So I don't know whether you can move slightly closer to your microphone.
Sure.
It's a little bit crackly, so try again, and please bear with us, everybody.
Okay.
Hazel, I'll come back to you if it's still crackly. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, in order to determine how the FinTech can actually benefit your business, you first need to understand what critical aspects are and the sticking points are within your business. Is that managing debtors, or is it stock control, or is it just simply the fact that you haven't got the management information information you need to run your business. Once you've identified that, you can evaluate the applications and FinTech that is available to support you. It's key to actually plan ahead and prioritise so that you are actually implementing what is crucial in the business. Clearly, with COVID-19, cash is king. Managing your working capital and being able to facilitate and pay your liabilities is going to be a priority. So it may be that actually you need people to help you with cash flow management. Also, just recognising that actually time and resource is quite
Hazel.
precious. Yes. Hello.
Hazel, I'm so sorry. We are having trouble hearing you. So there's a crackle on the line. So I don't know whether you could just take a moment to check out your IT equipment and just see if there's anything. And this is an awful thing to do to you when we're live on our webinar. But if you're able to just check that everything is appropriately set up and that there's nothing that's interfering. And we're getting a crackle when you're speaking. You're not using headphones, are you? Okay, so you're on mute at the moment.
Siobhan, shall I take over for a moment whilst Hazel checks out what she's doing, what her equipment is doing?
Yes, Pippa, if you can. Hazel, I'm sorry about this, but it's important that people really want to hear what you're sharing. So if you can check out your equipment, Pippa, if you're happy to take over, and Hazel, you just, when you're ready to come back, we'll re-engage with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan and Hazel. And that's such a shame that Hazel's connection is giving us some challenges, but that's an example of how we're all being accepting of technology, but also understanding that technology can have some limitations in real time. But anyway, back to this key point about understanding your business. You know, this is at the granular level, you need to really understand what your cash flow looks like. And make sure that you're using your FinTech platforms to understand where your sticking points are, where your low points in cash will be, and how you can manage and work through that. Look at some contingency planning. So none of us know exactly what this is going to look like over the next few weeks, but you should be able to use your FinTech to understand exactly how your financial headroom looks, and what your liquidity looks like in terms of flexibility around cash. And, you know, this is the time to really think about, could the business diversify? We've seen some great examples of businesses doing that over the last few weeks. It's well recognised that the hospitality sector has pretty much closed down, and suppliers into the hospitality sector have had to really quickly pivot and look at how they can diversify their business. For instance, in the food chain, where you're a supplier to pubs and restaurants, those businesses have looked at how can they supply direct to consumers with the likes of food boxes being delivered, particularly as everybody is looking to do more shopping online. We've moved to approximately £1 out of every £5 being spent online to about £1 in every 3. So that's a significant ramp up of the online retail business. And, you know, any business that's previously not been selling direct to consumer is now looking at good ways of doing that. And that's part of their diversification strategy. And the businesses who thrive through times like this are those who do take the brave decisions and who do really understand what the business is facing. So the forecasting is a critical part of that, because in order to understand exactly where your pinch points are around cash, etc., you need to model what you think the business is going to look like over the next few weeks, where your cash is going to be spent and where it's going to come in. That can sound quite daunting, but if you use the FinTech platforms effectively, that can become part of business as usual. And in fact, I know that we're talking to businesses and talking in our own business about how some of what people are doing now should be good business behaviour to embed in the business going forward, even when we come through and out the other side of this current lockdown. So these are part of the digital ecosystems, and you can use your historic information, and this is how we make decisions as human beings. We take what we know and we use that to make decisions about the future. And none of us actually know what the future holds, but that's how we as human beings rationalise what we're doing. If you look at the ecosystems that are available, any FinTech platform that you select for managing your business, you know, these things can form part of everything on the slide that we're showing here. So you can use your platforms to look at how you effectively manage your projects if that's the way you run your business. You can make sure you've got the appropriate systems in place for entry and approval of expenses, for instance. Use some digital apps for expenses, make sure the bank feeds are being used effectively and feeding directly into the platform so that you haven't got the risk of errors over data entry. A fully integrated ecosystem will see a business benefit from more than just time savings. Also, one of the things that we have touched upon is cash and how critical that is through times like this. Undoubtedly, there will be some businesses who have needs for extra funding. And some of that will be around the current crisis and what the issues are around that. But it's also a good time to think, okay, have I got a business opportunity here? Is this situation driving me to look at how I diversify, how I innovate, and how I could take the business forward? And actually, is there a real opportunity that can last beyond the lockdown during COVID-19? So the real-time data, if you can access that, you can help inform your business decisions. And if you do need funding and there's going to be somebody coming to undertake due diligence on your business, having better financial systems and increased visibility over your transactions will really help in that due diligence process. And you'll get a faster turnaround time for accessing the funding. If you look at FinTech itself and how that has been used to help funding businesses, there are a number of platforms that have evolved over a few years, and some of those are listed on the screen. And this is about how you connect those who have the money to invest and to lend with the businesses that want to access it. And some of that can now be done entirely in a digital environment, but that doesn't negate the need for that good understanding of your business and how you can take the data that showed through your FinTech platforms and use that to have good conversations with the potential funders. This is a really good time to think about, okay, during this current crisis, what funding is currently available? And I've listed on the screen here some of the specific COVID-19 funding that's available, but I actually put top of the list R&D tax credits. Now that isn't COVID-19 funding. It's something that's in the system as part of the government strategy to encourage innovation. And that has been around for a number of years. And the reason I put that top of the list is because it doesn't rely on an application and filling in data about your future prospects of your business, but it's cash back for a business on any sort of research and development innovation that they've already done. So where a business has already spent money on a qualifying research and development project, up to 1/3 of what has been spent can be claimed back from HMRC as R&D tax credits. And so that is about what you have already done and simply putting a claim in, and that's part of fulfilling the government's strategy to drive innovation. Turning specifically to some of the current COVID-19 funding, the business interruption loan schemes have been well publicised, as well as bounce back, and there's been significant access of the £50,000 funds through the bounce back scheme, and that has actually swamped what has been sought through the business interruption loan scheme aimed at larger businesses. So for an SME, the bounce back loan scheme I think is a really important one to look at if you need some temporary funding right now in order to ride out COVID-19, and if you need some funding in order to accelerate your business, because this has helped you to realise exactly what it is that's going to drive success. And the Future Fund, that was released earlier, well, it was released probably a couple of weeks ago, but this week there were some more details released about the Future Fund, and that opened up for applications on Wednesday this week. That is where the government will provide half of any money that's invested, so it's a co-invest piece for any business that's already raised funding of £250,000 of investment. The Future Fund is a potential option that could be attractive. So I'm going to stop just after this slide, and what I want you to take away from this is FinTech is terminology used in terms of how you manage your finances effectively in the digital world. Really, you need to start with your business strategy, understand what that is, and be prepared to make some difficult decisions through this current period. And FinTech can be used as part of an effective tool to support that business strategy. And where you already use it, you should be looking at how you use it. Is it effective? Are you getting the real-time information that you need to make those good business decisions? And recognizing that as we go through the next few weeks and months and see how this plays out, good businesses and those that survive will be those who do demonstrate agility, and they are able to make quick decisions and respond very quickly to what the challenges are and what the market is telling them. And by using your FinTech platforms to support your business strategy, you can really help to make sure that your business is sustainable for the long term by making the right informed decisions now. Thank you.
Pippa, thank you so much. And Hazel, I know that you've logged off and then come back onto the call, so I'm hoping that your audio feed will be a little clearer now. So you've come back just in time for some questions. So first of all, thank you for everything you've shared, and kudos to Pippa for being able to pick up on that second part of the presentation, which I know you weren't expecting to be delivering. So you're clearly a great team and you both know your stuff very well. That actually is kind of the foundation of my first question, because you have so much expertise and knowledge, it's literally oozing off the screen. But not everybody that's working in business has that sort of level of thinking and expertise. And what strikes me as really interesting is that you said that 62% of businesses are not using FinTech tools. Now I'm surprised that it's that high, especially given the picture that you've painted around what requirements are currently already in place. If you are a business that has not yet started to take advantage of these tools, where do you start if you do not have that kind of level of financial expertise that allows you to immediately see a way forward?
So if I just jump in there, Siobhan, it's actually 62% of businesses are not producing management information. So some of those businesses will undoubtedly be starting to use some of the FinTech platforms.
Okay.
So I think the decisions really should start from actually understanding what you've got. So Hazel, I think if you would like to just make some comments around how those decisions can be made, because I know you talk to businesses a lot about actually how to select the right systems for what they're facing.
Yeah, absolutely. So businesses will be using technology to some extent to run their business operations. But what they won't necessarily have is visibility of the financial performance of the business. And that's where we as advisors can help and support them to interpret the financial performance and plan ahead, and particularly using FinTech to plan for cash flow forecasting. And I know Pippa probably did cover it off, but obviously there is a lot of grant intervention and support being provided to business at the moment. And it's great that businesses are accessing the finance available, but at some point that is going to have to be paid back. So it's quite critical that these tools that we've got, we can plan ahead and use to plan and actually make sure that there's sufficient viability and cash ahead going forward, and enough working capital.
I think that's really interesting, Hazel, because the point is, I think there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer for every business. It's about understanding the business and then using that to make informed decisions about selecting the right technology to use to support the financial management.
So can I ask then, you're clearly linking those strategic decisions to the use of these tools and the outputs and the data that businesses need going forward. So when a business is looking at their business strategy, are there particular questions that they should be asking themselves to make sure that they are making the most of the financial resources that will help them?
I think what I would say is the questions to ask are, okay, if you look at your business strategy, what are the key metrics? What are the key bits of information that you as managers of the business, as stakeholders and owners, will need in order to understand whether you are following your business strategy effectively and whether it is proving successful? And by asking those questions before you dive into the detail of what the different FinTech options can do for you, that will really help drive your understanding of what functionality and performance you need from the FinTech platforms that you're considering.
Yeah, so we've had a comment from Dan, one of our listeners, and obviously somebody that people have heard on webinars in the past, and he's one of the organisers behind this series, and he's saying that real time financial management is important, and that they use Zoom, and that it's a question of should they be doing more to look ahead, and how far ahead should people be looking, given that there is so much uncertainty at the moment. So it's that difference between dealing with lockdown and planning for a hopefully more stable future. How do people balance that sort of decision at the moment?
Can I just add, I'm certainly finding at the moment that it is a short-term focus, looking in the next 6 to 12 months. Obviously, businesses are going to have a kind of longer-term strategy and a vision, but I think certainly we're seeing at the moment the priority is on the here and now, and how they're going to recover from COVID-19. And we've seen it in recent weeks and months actually, that it's just changing at a rapid pace, and it's really difficult to predict and plan ahead in these circumstances.
Yeah, it's, and actually I know that you two can't see the chat, but somebody has kindly corrected Dan and said he didn't mean Zoom, he meant Zero. And on the back of that, we've also seen that they are overloaded with different platforms, so Zero, Zoom, Sage, Slack, etc. And I think that's part of the challenges for businesses as well, in that we're all on a huge learning curve with some of these platforms. And I think one of the most interesting slides that you shared was your financial digital ecosystems slide, and that for me is a really good snapshot of all the different ways that we could be embracing FinTech in our businesses. And again, it's that balance, isn't it, between prioritizing what's needed now, thinking about what will be needed in 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, and then also managing the workload of actually understanding those platforms and bringing them into your business, training staff, making sure that the platforms are being used appropriately and correctly, and really making them part of our everyday business life. It's an awful lot for businesses to cope with, isn't it?
And I think that's where the point about actually understanding what you've already got really comes in, because it's much easier to enhance what you're already using, because people already feel comfortable at some level with what's already available, than it is to introduce an entirely new system at this point. And that piece about lots and lots of different platforms and lots of different systems that businesses are using, there's definitely something to be looked at around how they can interact with each other to get better and more informed information. The reference to the uncertainty and what we're facing coming out, clearly it's going to be as difficult, if not more difficult, as we come out of the COVID-19 lockdown than it was going into it. So I've just shared on the next screen, because we've collated a lot of material on our sort of business after COVID transition knowledge hub. So there's a huge amount of good information there if businesses want to access that and have a look there to see what advice and support there is available as we're coming out the other side.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that at this stage we're all trying to learn as much as we can, aren't we? And resources like that are going to be really, really helpful in the short term. I don't know about you, but I think it's like change now as we kind of reach the next phase of our response to COVID-19 from a business perspective, and that immediate resource and support that was kind of everywhere when we first went into lockdown is now changing. I don't know if that's your experience as well, and that now we're seeing a different type of support and people are looking towards the long term. I think that's hopefully a good thing, because it's going to mean that business leaders will have the support that they need to see them through the next phase. But I'd like to maybe ask you a slightly retrospective question, if I may, which is, when people do embrace the FinTech opportunities that are out there, what difference do you see for them in how they're managing their businesses on a day-to-day basis?
The biggest difference that I'm seeing is the time that the businesses are actually saving. Many business owners are finding that actually using the technology is cutting down on their management time that they need to spend, and they can just focus their time on actually planning the strategy.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think Pippa, I think you also mentioned the emotional aspects of all of this, do business leaders feel relieved once they finally got themselves sorted and they've got that information without having to go through cumbersome approaches and systems to actually find out that real-time management data, for example?
I think there's definitely a sense of release. I mean, with it's like anything. If you understand what you're facing, you take away the fear. And all of the digital ecosystems, they're systems and they're tools that we're using, but as human beings, it's how the impact that they have on us that is really important. And I think Hazel quite rightly referenced the reduction in time taken to deal with the financial management of a business. That can be such a relief for a business owner or a manager in a business, because it means that they can focus more on the business issues and the future, even if that's only the immediate future at the moment, that's the main focus, rather than focusing on how the past is reported, because traditionally that's where financial systems have mostly been used. It's been to capture information about what has happened, and where we're seeing a change in the use of the systems, that's often about, okay, so capturing information about the past isn't sufficient. We need to use that to inform us and help us to understand what the future might look like, and at the moment what the immediate future might look like, and forecast and use those systems to create some sensible forecasts that you can change and tweak to model for different scenarios. And again, looking at the potential number of outcomes that there might be over the next few weeks and months, and understanding what the impact of those different outcomes might be on the business can really help you feel that you've got confidence in your understanding of the business and confidence that you're able to make the right decisions.
Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you. So what would be the one piece of advice you would like to leave with people today? If you had one message out of all of the detailed information we've shared, which has been fantastic, if I had to pin you down and say, what would the one thing be that you'd like people to remember and maybe take action on after today?
So I'd like people to really understand what they've already got and take action around making sure that they're using that in the right way to support the decision making that they need to make. And some of those decisions will be difficult, but that will give businesses confidence to make the right decisions. Hazel, what would you add?
Yeah, just to add, embrace the FinTech, because actually it's the kind of future of business going forwards, and don't be scared of it. Don't be scared of it.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm just going to ask you one more question, which has just come in, which Hazel, you've mentioned being scared, and I think fear is a factor at the moment for a lot of businesses. So, businesses are trying to hold on to cash as best they can at the moment. We're seeing that, we're seeing people applying for loans and support and hopefully planning carefully how they're going to use that financial boost and backup over the coming months to keep themselves afloat. But of course, there is also the question and the tension about innovation and people looking for opportunities, investing in new services, and operating in ways that they haven't done in the past, but will take investment now to make successful. How would you balance those financial imperatives with that feeling of risk over keeping those funds to keep things going on the same footing, or using those funds to be brave and try and innovate and hopefully move your business forward into a new sphere in the future? Hazel, would you like to respond first to that one?
Yeah, it is a case of actually going back to the slide on the contingency planning, making sure that you actually have got sufficient working capital financial headroom that is going to be available to support you your immediate working capital needs. And then look at your funding that you're going to need and the investment that you're actually going to need to do the innovative projects going forward, and look at how then you are going to access that finance. Are you going to need more inward investment? Are you going to need additional lending from finance? Or actually, are there going to be grants available to support you to do the innovation? Or perhaps as Pippa mentioned, does your business qualify for R&D tax credits? So there's different ways that you'll be able to raise the finance, but it's a case of working out, you know, have you got sufficient working capital to pay, you know, your operational costs over the next few months? That's going to be kind of a key cash flow management planning exercise that businesses need to do.
Great. Okay. So thank you both. Any further thoughts from either of you? I think we're going to conclude our session now, unless there's anything further you wanted to add before we draw things to a close.
I think the only thing I would say is, you know, really use this time to understand your business as well as you can, and understand how you can react to rapid change, because I think that we'll probably see more rapid change. Whatever we get back to won't be quite what we came out of. So don't be afraid of that. You know, businesses are strong and resilient, and people are more resilient than they think. So just be prepared for the changes that will come ahead, and make sure you do understand where the options, what options you've got around accessing the finance, as Hazel says.
Great, thank you. So Hazel and Pippa, thank you so much. We are all really grateful for the knowledge and the expertise you shared with us today. So we are nearly at the end of today's session. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't already joined, please head over to LinkedIn, and there you can join the Technology for Success business group, where you can share further ideas on this and all our topics and connect with others. A special thank you to people who've been working hard behind the scenes on this webinar series, to Julian and Jordan at Timewade and the team at Astley Media, and all of our speakers who've been involved up to this point. We are going to be having that summit session on the 11th of June at 11 AM, and I do hope that you can join us for that. We'll be sending you details on how to book into that session nearer the time. So that just leaves me to thank you all for joining today. We will look forward to seeing you on the 11th of June. Good luck till then, and stay well, everybody. Enjoy the bank holiday ahead and have a good day. Thank you. Bye-bye.